Good evening, everyone. How are you all? I'm good, thank you. Okay. So, how many of you have written this time? Mains? Any of you? Okay. Yeah. So, I'm sure many of you are watching online. Whoever has written this time. So, I'll give you the overall analysis. So, I wish you all the best to all those who have written this time. So let's hope to meet you guys in the mock interview for your next stage, the last stage. Okay. So coming to those who have not written and who are here to see this session, so definitely this is going to be more helpful for you guys. Okay, this will give you a thorough understanding of this year's paper, and I'll give you the pattern also since the last few years, how exactly it has changed and what is the expectation for the next year. So this is more important. How exactly we have to orient our studies, so in order to score well in paper one. So I hope all of you have done your foundation course, basic preparation. So in the next 1 year, you are going to prepare for the prelims as well as the mains. And this is the time you have to actually concentrate more on the mains. Okay, so till December, January tak. See, this year paper, the general studies paper 1, coming to the geography questions. So yeah, you guys tell me, like, how was the question? Kaise laga? So your opinion first, then I'll give you my opinion. So easy, medium, difficult? Medium. Okay, so all medium, no difficult questions. Okay, 1 or 2 difficult questions. Any easy questions? Easy questions? No? Fjord? Easy question? ठीक है. See, the idea is to understand the pattern, to understand the overall change which has happened since last 1 year and last few years, and how to prepare for the next year. And is there any requirement of sources? Do you have to change any sources in your preparation? So all of this will analyze and discuss in detail. So before we begin, so we'll start with the most basic part. Geography का syllabus क्या है वो देख लेते पहले, है ना? तो for many of you have already shown this. Okay, so it's okay. We'll do it again. So we have 3 main topics given in the syllabus. Okay, so the main syllabus, the first, the salient features of world's physical geography. The second, distribution of key natural resources and the factors responsible for the location of primary, secondary, tertiary sectors. And then the important geophysical phenomena, okay, which includes earthquake, tsunami, volcanic activity, cyclone, etc., and their features and the changes which were being observed. So these 3 topics are given here. So for the sake of understanding and analysis, so let's give some heading to these topics. The first topic, let's call it as the physical geography of world. Okay, so this is number 1 topic. And I hope all of you know this. This last topic is also related to the physical geography, but those changes which are currently happening, particularly the disasters and the critical changes which are being observed in the geographical features on the surface of Earth, whether it is mountains or the glaciers or the water bodies. All these is included in this topic. So let's call it as geophysical phenomena. The third topic would be the distribution of natural resources. We can call it as natural resources. And within this, we can identify 4th topic, factors responsible for the location of primary, secondary, and tertiary sector industries. So basically, we can call it as economic activities. So can we identify 4 topics here? The 4 major sections. And the Indian geography is part of all of this. Whatever the topic we are going to study, we are also going to study as part of Indian geography. Indian geography के लिए भी apply करके देखेंगे. So for example, the physical geography includes all the physical aspects: geomorphology, climatology, oceanography, biogeography, right? And within that, whatever the critical changes which are happening the currently in news and the disasters, all of this, we will keep it separate, like geophysical phenomena. So of course, while studying, you will study it as this part of physical geography itself, but इसके लिए थोड़ा सा special emphasis देना है. Okay, since it is separately mentioned in the syllabus. And the third topic would be natural resources. That includes, most importantly, water resource, vegetation, and mineral, energy resource. Okay, so all the natural resources which are available on the surface of Earth. And then economic activities include the primary, secondary, and tertiary activities. Okay, primary activity, agriculture, mining, fishing. Secondary activity, manufacturing industry. Tertiary activity, services, transportation, trade, communication, all of this. Okay, so this is our syllabus. So this is the overall weightage of the section of geography since last 11 years. Okay, so the last time syllabus, main syllabus was changed in 2013. So 10 years last year complete ho gaya. This is the 11th year. The same pattern is being continued. So in this general studies paper 1 out of 250 marks, how much of marks are included in geography? Okay, so initially you can see there was some amount of variation between 70 to 150. So now it is almost settled. So we can expect on an average 100 marks. It has been consistently 100 marks. This year also we have 100 marks out of 250, a total of 8 questions. Okay, total of 8 questions we can consider to be part of geography. So one question overlaps between geography and post-independence. Okay, so in fact there is one question overlapping between geography and society also. The question on urbanization, so it's between geography and society. And one question on the net importer, net exporter. So we can consider it as the question of both geography as well as post-independence. Okay, so including that, I have not included urbanization because that the major demand of the question is about the vulnerable sections. है ना, वो society में include कर सकते हैं. So, but we can include the net importer, net exporter वाला question है ना. So that is totally related to agriculture revolution. Okay, agriculture revolution and the changes which have happened after the independence. So considering that, we have total of 100 marks out of 250. So this is with respect to weightage. And for your understanding, I have given all these 10 questions together. You can see this question. I'll just briefly introduce this, then we'll go in detail. Okay, we'll go one by one. So most of you would have seen these questions already. The first question is on the consequence of climate change on the food security. Okay, climate change and the food security. Second, regarding the fresh water resources. Third, जो most famous हो गया अभी, fjords. And the fourth, Purvaiya, ये भी famous हो गया अभी. And the fifth question is the resource potential of coastline of India. Okay, coastline of India का resource potential and their hazard preparedness. And the sixth question is on the natural vegetation, the overall diversity, what are the factors responsible for the diversity, and the significance of having these wildlife sanctuaries in the forest regions, rainforest regions of India. Okay, specifically about the rainforest region, not any region as such. And the seventh question is between the human development and the economic development. Okay, the comparison and between the human development, economic development. So you may ask, is this the question of geography? Yes, totally. Okay, so this is the traditional question between the economic geography and human geography. Human geography talks about the human development, economic geography talks about the economic development. Okay, तो उसी को ही application जैसे बना के question पूछा है. And this is regarding the agriculture revolution. Okay, including the green revolution and few other measures which have been taken. So total of 8 questions. So clear? Now, so we have identified 4 topics, right? Physical geography, geophysical phenomena, natural resources, and economic activity. In these topics, how many questions have come from how many of these areas? Okay, let's just see this. So there is one question from physical geography, that is, I would say, the question on the monsoon, Purvaiya. Okay, this is a proper physical geography question, physical geography of India. So it's about the way monsoon branch gets distributed. Okay, so we'll come to this question. So we can say the physical geography of India. Geophysical phenomena, we have 2 questions. One is related to the climate change, another one is related to the fjords. So I'll explain why fjords should be included as part of this geophysical phenomena. And there are 3 questions on the natural resources. Fresh water resource के ऊपर जो question था, coastline resources, and then natural vegetation. All the 3 are resources, है ना? So resources in the context of 2 in the context of India, 1 in the context of world. ठीक है? Economic geography, we have 2 questions about the comparison between the economic and human development, and then the net exporter of food. Okay, so agriculture topic में आ जाएगा ये. So this is in general applicable to Indian economic development. Overall development के ऊपर question है. This is in the context of agriculture. We have total of 8 questions. So is that clear? इस साल का जो weightage है, so you can see maximum questions have come from these aspects. Out of 8 questions, 5 questions are from this economic geography, economic as well as the resources, economic activities as well as resources. So now let's compare this with the last 10 years of pattern. Okay, so if you compare this division of the sector subject wise, मतलब topic wise जो division है, let's compare this with the last 10 years of division. So in the last 10 years, whatever the number of questions which have been asked in geography, so I have divided into the 4 different sections and I have put it as a pie chart in front of you. So in this you can see, so around 15% of the questions are from physical geography, around 37% of the questions are from geophysical phenomena. Okay, तो इसमें सबसे ज़्यादा weightage था, and around 25% and 25% from resources as well as economic activity. This year pattern you can see the number of questions from this area has decreased and resources का area increased. So ये almost same ही है, ये भी almost same ही है. Okay, so usually 1 or 2 questions will be there. This time we have 1 question from this physical geography of India as well as world, and then economic activity again 2 questions would be there. Here also 2 questions are there. तो यहाँ पर 2 question usually जो होना चाहिए था वो कट करके तो यहाँ पर डाल दिया. Okay, so the weightage in the geophysical phenomena has decreased and natural resources has increased. So what do we imply from this? Should we give more importance to natural resources? Yes, of course we should give more importance to natural resource as such, natural economic activity. Okay, so anything related to the economic activity we have to understand in more detail, because even if you see the prelims paper also, so there were good number of questions from the economic aspects. However, we cannot neglect this part. Okay, so this part has been in the last 10 years, there were good weightage in this part and they are more related to the current aspects. तो इस साल बस 1-2 क्वेश्चन नहीं आया है तो उसके चक्कर में इसको इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते. Okay, so whoever has studied thoroughly the physical geography as well as the geography of the India, they know this. The core of the geography lies in this area only. इसको neglect नहीं करना है. Okay, just based on 1 year pattern, we have to continue to give more importance to this area. However, इसमें usually neglected था, तो एक simple hint है, तो यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा और focus करना पड़ेगा economic geography. ठीक है? I have also divided the questions as per their nature. Okay, we have total of 8 questions. So there are 4 types of questions usually which are asked. The first type of question is static and basic. Okay, these questions which are asked directly from textbook. Okay, simple and direct questions. Okay, for example, any of the questions related to the formation of fold mountains. Okay, so our last year का जो question आया था, the primary rocks. What are primary rocks? Explain the characteristics, like that. Simple and direct questions. Second type of question is static and apply. Okay, these are the questions which are from traditional part of geography. Okay, traditional topics of geography. But the questions are not going to be directly as it is. It is not directly as it is from the textbook. The topics are traditional geography, but the questions are given in an applied manner. You have to think and write the answer. There is no straightforward answer as it is given in any of the traditional sources. You have to make the answer. Okay, so that is what is static and applied. But the topic is totally conventional. This is not related to current affairs. The third type of question is mixture of both static as well as current affairs. So some static part of geography linked with the current events. Okay, so जो climate change का question आया इस बार, so that is one example. The fourth question is totally current affairs type. Okay, so for example last year question on IRNSS, sorry not IRNSS, the color coded warning, उसके पहले आया था IRNSS. Okay, color coded warning on the cyclone warning system, है ना, तो जो IMD का color coded warning के ऊपर last year question आया था. So that is a best example, totally current affairs question. ठीक है, we have total 4 types of questions. And this year 5 questions were totally from static and applied, 3 questions were static and current affairs. Okay, I'll show you which one. You can see this consequences of climate change on food security, static plus current affairs. All of you agree? Okay, you have to link the climate change on the food security. Okay, climate change, of course, it should be considered as like some part of it is traditional part of geography. Okay, geophysical phenomena में directly दिया है. Water resource, water crisis, again static and current affairs. This is currently in news. Environment में भी आप पढ़ोगे इसके बारे में, right? At the same time, like water resource is a traditional part of economic geography, natural resources का एक part है, आपको पढ़ना ही वहाँ पर भी. It's a mix of both. Fjords, static and applied, because it is not a direct question on fjords. What are fjords? ऐसे तो नहीं पूछा है कैसे बनता है. And second part, most importantly, why they constitute some of the most picturesque areas of the world. So this make it more applied. Okay, static and applied. And this also, Purvaiya is also static and applied, because even though the first part talks about the static part of it, so second part, okay, the cultural significance of this particular branch of monsoon here. So it makes it static and applied. This is static and current affairs. Resource potential of India is static part. Resources क्या resource मिलता है ये तो पढ़ना ही आपको. But the preparation in terms of natural hazard, that is your current affairs. The current events which have happened, the current initiatives which have been taken. So that makes it mix of both. Factors responsible for diversity of natural vegetation. This is static but applied. Okay, so this is just not asking कौन सा forest मिलता है इंडिया में बताओ. So they're asking why there is diversity of forest. You have to think and write the answer. And second part also, ये भी थोड़ा सा applied part ही है. They're asking what is the significance of wildlife sanctuaries in the rainforest of India. है ना, ये भी सोच के लिखना है, ऐसा तो कोई कहीं पे भी आपको स्टैंडर्ड आंसर नहीं मिलेगा. And human development and economic development, this is totally static and applied part. So there is no direct straightforward here. And net importer of food, again static and applied, because overview आपको देना पड़ेगा, तो not just one area. Okay, so you have to give the overview of all the different events which have happened. So we have 5 questions of static and applied and 3 questions of static and current affairs. No direct questions and no direct current affairs questions also. So let's compare this with the last 10 years of pattern. So this is totally surprising change. So till now we used to have at least 1/3 of the questions which are directly static as well as basic. पूरा textbook से as it is आ रहा था. Okay, so you take the last 10 years, you will find many such questions. Okay, so this year no single question which is direct. Okay, static applied तो वही 1/3 तो था, तो अभी हो गया 2/3. So here current affairs, traditional current affairs and static and current affairs, rest of it. So now again, so 1/3 of the entire questions, they are mix of static and current affairs. There are no direct current affairs at all. Geography section में direct current affairs usually कम ही रहता है. So there are very few examples. That's why overall weightage आप last 10 years में देखो तो direct current affairs कम ही है. Very few examples are there. So but the overall weightage of this static plus current affairs has increased. You can see. So what can we imply? So this has made the geography section difficult. No, geography section is as it is, and the answer which you have to write ये भी ज़्यादा difficult नहीं है, provided you do some answer writing practice. Okay, so when you go through the questions, you will understand this. The questions appear to be difficult, but they are not difficult. Okay, so let's go through the questions. Then in the end, we'll come back again, and then we will try to analyze. Okay, तो कैसे हम क्या कर सकते हैं आगे next year के लिए क्या कर सकते हैं. So we'll try to do that. Is that clear? चलो. So let's start with the question number 4, the first question of geography. Overall agenda of this part is to analyze the nature of questions and orient our preparation accordingly. So for that, it is very important to understand the motive behind the question, why the question has been asked. Is there any current news which is there, which has made the topic relevant? ये सबसे बहुत important है. This we will see. In every question, we will try to see, is there any news related to that? And second important aspect which we have to see is, are there any previous questions in the same area? Previous patterns कुछ repeat हुआ है? So this is a very important information regarding the way of preparation. है ना, तो यूपीएससी का सिंपल डायरेक्ट कम्युनिकेशन चैनल, 2 कम्युनिकेशन चैनल है. कौन सा है? एक तो सिलेबस है, दूसरा प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन पेपर. प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन पेपर देखा तो थोड़ा बहुत आपको पता चल जाएगा कोई कैसे क्वेश्चन आएगा. विल सी बोथ ऑफ दिस इन एवरी क्वेश्चन, एंड दिल विल मेक ए ब्रीफ स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ दिस एंटायर क्वेश्चन. उसका आंसर क्या होना चाहिए So that will be the pattern. ठीक है? So question number 4. Discuss the consequences of climate change on food security in tropical countries. You have to read the question very carefully. Okay, so first part तो ठीक है, discuss the consequences of climate change on the food security in tropical country. This is the keyword. You cannot restrict your answer only to India. At the same time, you cannot generalize to the entire world. You have to talk about the tropical countries. The impact of climate change on the food security within the tropical countries. Simple है, ठीक है? So कुछ news item है. Of course, climate change तो news में ही है. Okay, there is no specific directly ऐसे climate change and food security and tropical country ऐसे कोई direct news item नहीं है. But however, overall, the climate change has been a topic which is currently in news, and usually there are 1 or 2 questions which are related to environment which are directly asked in UPSC. So climate change is one such favorite area. And most importantly, the topic of geophysical phenomena. जो syllabus ने हमने mark किया ना, geophysical phenomena, it talks all about the climate change only. तो उससे inspired है. Okay, so that is our inspiration. So coming to the previous years, you will be surprised to see there have been many such questions almost in the same pattern. 2014, bring out the relationship between the shrinking Himalayan glaciers and the symptoms of climate change in Indian subcontinent. The correlation between the climate change and shrinking glaciers. Examine the status of forest resources of India and its resultant impact on climate change. है ना? ये देखो, assess the impact of global warming on the coral life system with examples. Global warming, climate change, both are interrelated. है ना? So in the same pattern, this question has been asked. Okay, so and this has been a traditional topic of our current affairs. Whoever has read mains 365 current affairs, we usually cover this. Okay, impact of climate change in all the various different sectors. तो वो तो डिटेल में कवर हुआ ही था. ठीक है? So this is the previous questions. So let's come to the structure of this answer, which should be written here. So this is a 10 marker, and you have to restrict your answer. You will get a lot of content to write. The key is, rather than elaborating too much, okay, so keep it brief, but try to give as many different impacts as possible. Diversify your points. ये बहुत ज़रूरी है. So you may pick up 1 or 2 themes and just keep elaborating that. उससे ज़्यादा marks नहीं मिलता है. Okay, the person who is evaluating your answer, he will see how many different dimensions you are trying to bring. And in any geography questions, always try to see if you can draw a map or a figure. इन दोनों में at least एक तो होना चाहिए. A map or a figure. Very rarely you will find a question where you cannot draw both. दोनों का scope है ही नहीं है, ऐसा बहुत rarely मिलता है. At least a map or a figure you will find it. So can we draw a map here? So definitely you can draw a map and show the tropical countries of the world. A very simple map. छोटा सा बनाओ, पूरा पेज मत बनाओ. Okay, simple सा एक corner में दिखाओ. These are the tropical countries. It'll give you a rough idea. So have you practiced drawing map, world map? नहीं किया? ठीक है, करो. It will be very helpful. Okay, not only for geography, even few other topics also. International relations, environment, disaster management, security, बहुत जगह में mapping काम आएगा. So please practice drawing few India map as well as world map. ठीक है? So now, so 10 marker, I told you, the key is you have to diversify but limited discussion. बहुत ज़्यादा डिटेल में नहीं जाना चाहिए. The first part, introduce your answer. So what can you write in the introduction? You can talk about the overall general impact of climate change, particularly on the tropical countries. How tropical countries are more vulnerable to climate change. कैसे होगा? They are the ones which are experiencing increased incidence of cyclones. Okay, so increased storms, rise in the sea level, submergence of land, shrinking of glaciers. Okay, they are the ones which are most impacted. And second, what makes them more vulnerable? Higher population. Okay, so the major population of the world is concentrated in the tropical countries. So because of this, they are more vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. Okay, so briefly introduce this. Then directly come to the main body of the question, that is discuss the consequence of climate change on the food security. Okay, so directly come to the consequences. और कहानी नहीं चाहिए. So now, Food security. Usually food security people tend to write only about the agriculture. Food security agriculture hona chahiye. You can also write about fishing activity, right? You can also write about any other sources of food. Okay, so marine का जो भी sources है सारा लिख सकते हो. And you can also talk about the loss of fertile land, that is also related to the agriculture. Okay, you don't have to talk only about the productivity. Okay, what are the different dimensions? How the climate change is going to impact the food security. First, the crop productivity may get impacted because of the variation in temperature. Most of the crops are specific to particular temperature conditions. You vary the temperature, overall productivity decreases. Okay, they are not maximum. Then precipitation. There is variation in the precipitation, right? We experience high precipitation in some regions, no precipitation at all. So it will definitely impact the agriculture productivity, right? And then extreme events. So we must have heard about this year extreme events in the agriculture season. टमाटर का प्राइस तो 200 तक चला गया था. क्यों गया था? So because of unseasonal rainfall, right? And there was also some kind of virus, right? So all of this you have to explain with examples from the tropical regions. Tropical regions से example देके explain करना है. ठीक है? So and don't restrict yourself to India alone. ठीक है? And then you can talk about the availability of water. With the melting of glaciers, the water availability decreases for agriculture. Okay, you can give examples of the glaciers of Andes, the mountains of Africa. जिससे rivers आते हैं तो even they will get impacted, right? So of course include India also. India में Himalayas ही नहीं है. So we have Suleiman range, okay, so Hindu Kush range, and most of the countries of South Asia. Most of the countries of South Asia, they are going to be impacted because of the melting of glaciers. This entire region, okay, this entire region, one of the densely populated region, okay, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Afghanistan, they're all depend upon these glaciers, and because of climate change, definitely the availability of water is going to decrease. That will impact the food security. Okay? And then increase in the incidence of pests and insects. You must have heard about this locust attack. So 2 साल पहले हुआ था. So definitely that is going to eat away all these food grains, food crops तो खा लेगा, right? And then what else? और क्या include कर सकता है? In terms of the rise in the sea level, which causes the loss of fertile land near to the coastal area. Near to the coastal area, we have a good agriculture land, plain areas. So we are going to lose that. Fishing activity is going to get impacted because of the variation in the sea level, temperature, acidification. Coral reefs are going to get impacted. The coral reefs are majorly present in the tropical region, and coral reefs provide livelihood in terms of fishing activity, right? And not only that, food security not only means supply, it also about the capacity of the people to afford this food. Even that will be impacted. Why? Because of loss, economic loss hoga. The income levels will drop because of climate change, and the government will not be able to spend too much on the agriculture sector, primary sector, because the government's concentration will be more on the disaster management, right? So affordability will also get impacted. That will also impact the food security, right? So you can see so many factors, so many ideas you can bring. Jitna dimensions leke आओगे उतना अच्छा रहेगा. So do you need a conclusion here? So definitely. See, the simple rule is, whenever you talk about any issue, don't leave it as it is. Try to bring some way forward. Whenever you talk about some problem or issue, try to give a way forward, even if it is not asked in the question. Okay, there you can bring the conclusion. So here you can bring, most importantly, the SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, SDG 2, you might have heard. Zero hunger, that will definitely get impacted because of climate change. So we need international effort in order to face this issue. A coordinated effort is required. Is that clear? That will be your answer. Any doubts here? So few of the pests and insects, their occurrence, their number is going to increase. Some of them are more active. Some of their breeding cycle gets varied. Okay, some of them start to breed faster. Eggs hatching will happen faster. So because of that, we may experience increased incidence of pests and insects. That will definitely directly impact the agriculture. No, that is not required here. Okay, so it's a good question. So do we have to write the initiatives taken? So either you write that initiative, conclusion में वही एक दो लिखो, उसी को ही conclude कर लो, or you can just say और क्या कर सकते हैं. Either of these two. Okay, so because that is not there in the question. Discuss the consequences of climate change on the food security. So what is the impact of climate change on the food security? Just restrict to the demand. ठीक है? चलो. The next question. Question number 5. Why is the world today confronted with a crisis of availability of and access to fresh water resources? Why is the world today confronted with a crisis of availability of and access to fresh water resources? You have to read these questions very carefully. Okay. What is the demand of this question? So why there is an issue related to fresh water resource? Is it just that? It is saying the crisis is of two types. So दुनिया में क्राइसिस फ्रेश वाटर रिसोर्सेस रिलेटेड जो क्राइसिस है ना वो क्यों है वही क्वेश्चन है, बट दो टाइप का क्राइसिस के बारे में बात करते हैं, क्राइसिस ऑफ अवेलेबिलिटी एंड क्राइसिस ऑफ एक्सेस. You have to discuss both of them separately. You can discuss it together, but one who writes separately, they will get better marks because you're able to differentiate the actual demand of the question. So you can write about this both of them separately. दोनों separately बात कर सकते हैं, I'll tell you. ठीक है? So we'll talk about it's basically why there is a crisis related to the water availability. One is availability, another related to the access. So is there any news? Of course, water resource तो पूछना ही नहीं है, तो हर साल तो न्यूज़ में रहता है. Okay, this is one of just one of them. ऐसे randomly सर्च किया तो आपको मिल जाएगा. So every year you will hear about the crisis of water scarcity, water availability, most importantly from urban areas. Many of our cities are saying that we are in the path of moving towards the 0 day. What is 0 day? 0 day is a day when the government has to stop tap water supply. There is no water available for the distribution. That is what is 0 day. So major urban metropolitan cities are facing this crisis. Okay, so Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, not only in India, so even at the world level. Cape Town you might have heard. So one of the most crises in terms of water availability. Right? So that is the inspiration. And not only that, ये UPSC का सबसे favorite area है. So these are the number of questions which have been asked on water resources. Directly, I'm not linking to other areas. Directly about the water availability, water scarcity के ऊपर ही है. You can see, you can start from 2015. India is well endowed with fresh water resources. Critically examine why it still suffers from water scarcity. Almost same ही है. यहाँ पर India का बात हुआ है, यहाँ पर world का बात हुआ है. Effective management of land and water resources will drastically reduce the human miseries. कैसे manage करना है, तो overall idea थोड़ा सा अलग है, but water scarcity, water issue के ऊपर ही है. Okay, थोड़ा सा demand अलग है, but this is almost direct है, right? This is India level at the world level. The ideal solution of depleting groundwater resource in India is water harvesting system. Can it be made more effective in urban areas? Basically about the urban areas and the water scarcity, water issues. This is related to urban areas. What is water stress? How and why it does differ regionally in India? यही तो है water stress. Water stress is about availability as well as access. That is what is water stress. What are the environmental implications of reclamation of water bodies into urban land use? Explain with example. 2021 का question है. This is again about the urban areas water scarcity. So this is one of the most favorite area of UPSC. तो usually एक question तो रहता है. So this is again not at all difficult. We cannot call this question as difficult at all. So source भी बहुत simple है, currently inspired, and there have been many previous questions. This is totally expected line. So this is one of the very easy and direct questions. So what should be the structure in this? Introduce your answer. About the water availability in the world. You can give a general idea about the water availability. In fact, there have been a prelims question also on this. How much of water is available in which of the sources? Okay, so lakes, wetlands, rivers, groundwater, ऐसा एक question आया था. Okay, so you can directly give that fact here. हाउ मच ऑफ वाटर इज अवेलेबल ऑन द फ्रेश वाटर, सरफेस फ्रेश वाटर में कितना है? Okay, so I'll give you some facts. 97% is marine water, salt water, 3% is fresh water. In that 3%, two-third is in ice caps. Two-third is in ice caps. 67% almost ice caps में. Around 31% is in groundwater. बचा है almost 1%. 1% है. So that 1% is on the surface, is in the soil as well as in the atmosphere. Very, very limited amount of water is available on the surface. Surface fresh water is very, very less. You can directly write that here, introduction में. That gives you the overall significance, overall issue का एक significance को starting में ये highlight कर दोगे. Or you can even give the examples of these recent crisis. Okay, कोई भी city का example ले लो, वो भी दे सकते हो. All of these are currently in news. So in the second part, try to differentiate this separately. Crisis of availability should be your second part. Crisis of access should be your third part. So what are the reasons behind the lesser availability of water, fresh water on the surface of Earth? Okay, this is at the global level. Okay, don't restrict your answer to India alone. You have to talk at the global level. ठीक है? So what are the reasons behind less availability of water at the global level? बताइए. पता है आपको? So try to give the answer. Why there is less availability of water? Unplanned agriculture, water intensive agriculture. Okay, so because of which the higher consumption is there, overall there is decline in the water availability. You can give the best example is India का northern plains, Punjab, Haryana का जो भी the water table which is declining due to the water intensive agriculture. So you can give that example. Not only India, in most of the population densely populated regions, the water availability is decreasing because of water intensive agriculture. ठीक है, other than this, water pollution, most important factor है. Pollution reduces the availability of good water. Okay, reduces the availability of the clean water which can be used. This is common to most of the urban regions of the world. Right? So you can take any of these metropolitan cities with rivers. Okay, so London का Thames river तो अभी clean होना शुरू हुआ है. That is one of the most polluted. Water availability बहुत कम हो जाएगा because of pollution. Then deforestation. Deforestation reduces the water availability because it will reduce the percolation, increase the surface runoff. Land degradation, desertification, dryness of the land. Supply side का बात कीजिए. Supply side का. Why there is lesser availability? ठीक है. So that we can include as unplanned urbanization. Industrialization, ठीक है. So industry, in fact, industries का है ना contribution, they are more towards the pollution rather than the consumption. They use in fact less water, but they pollute more. That is their contribution actually. So of course there is a contribution in terms of pollution. Most importantly, climate change. Climate change impacts the water availability in various different manner. हमने तो पूरा UPSC का क्वेश्चन ही देख लिया. How exactly the climate change impacts the water availability? 3-4 पॉइंट्स यहाँ पर ऐड कर सकते हो. It will reduce the water availability by melting the glaciers. It will disturb the water cycle. It will vary the monsoon cycle. Okay, it causes unseasonal rainfall. It causes unseasonal drought, flash drought. ये सब चीजें आ जाएगा सब climate change की वजह से. So water availability is getting impacted. Other than this, there are also some geographical factors. Traditionally, some of the areas, some of the regions of the world receive lesser water itself. Desert areas, subtropical deserts, hot deserts. Traditionally, वहाँ पर कमी है. ठीक है. And the nature of monsoon. Not only in India, monsoon climate is present in different parts of the world. Wherever there is monsoon climate, the availability is just seasonal. That is one of the important issue of availability. Whatever the water which is received in these 3-4 months, we cannot hold it all together. It will go waste. If the same water is distributed uniformly throughout there, we can make better use. So there comes availability. Right? So और कुछ ऐड कर सकते हो? वो एक्सेस में इंक्लूड कर देंगे. दोनों अलग करना है. पहले सप्लाई, व्हाट आर द रीजंस बिहाइंड crisis in the supply. Now tell me what are the reasons behind the crisis in access. Why the water is becoming less accessible? Because of increase in population. Okay, higher population growth. And then here you can add the urbanization factor also. Then mismanagement यहाँ का major factor है ना? So in many of the regions, there is good water availability in some regions and there is no water availability at all in other regions. We have to manage this water. Okay, interlinking of river is one such solution. Of course, we cannot do large scale interlinking. National level पे interlinking करना थोड़ा सा ecologically viable नहीं हो सकता है, but the local level we can do. Wherever there is possible at the local level, it can be a solution. It's a management, right? Other than this, constraints in terms of the economic resources to implement these infrastructure projects. Many of these less developed countries, developing countries, they cannot implement these infrastructure projects, dams, reservoirs to control the flow of water, to regulate the flow of water, ensure equitable access. Dams, reservoirs ensure equitable access. ठीक है, तो हर जगह में तो economic crisis की वजह से हो सकता है. Other than this, many of these rivers are geopolitical, मतलब they cross the border. They move from one country to another. There is not much proper cooperation between different countries. So not every country act like India. ठीक है, हमने तो जो भी crisis war के time में भी हमने Indus Water Treaty को बंद नहीं करवाया. Okay, but China is building continuously dams over there. Okay, so there is a crisis, not only in South Asia, in many different parts of Africa, South America. So there are many rivers which flow from one country to another. There are many inter-basin rivers are there. So there is difficulty in terms of management over there. Supply side में include कर सकते हो. Climate change में आ जाएगा, climate change and El Nino, La Nina. ठीक है? So try to differentiate. This is very much important that you differentiate these. So then your answer will be better. So that depends upon the policy. Should we make the water as a public good or a private good, commodity करना है, तो वहाँ पर debate आ जाएगा. Okay, so that you can include in the access. Okay, because of the climate change overall, the impact on the vulnerable sections and their affordability towards the water resource is decreasing. Urban areas में सबसे ज़्यादा water crisis तो आपने देखा ही होगा. But which areas? Even though there is uniform crisis everywhere in most of the cities, but the people who can afford, they will buy water. Okay, you can give the best example of Bangalore. Bangalore, most of the areas they are depend upon the water tanker. Okay, water tanker के ऊपर depend है. Not everyone can afford this, right? The people, vulnerable section, the migrants, the poor, laborers, they cannot afford this. So there is an issue of accessibility over there, right? Conclusion. So again, this is a question which is at the global level. You need to bring the conclusion or solution or way forward. Okay, so you can mention any of the international initiatives taken to ensure about the water availability, water scarcity को कम करने के लिए, और क्या कर सकता है. Okay, so or you can even bring the angle of climate change. Okay, so in the context of climate change, this crisis is going to increase much more. We need urgent efforts. But water से direct होना better रहेगा. Water से direct link करो. Desalinization is a good solution. You can write that. Desalinization. But we need more research in terms of technology. There's a limitation of technology in that. Okay, so right now it is not affordable. The issue with desalinization is that it also produces some amount of heat during the process of desalinization. It may add on to the global warming. Okay, but if we are with the research and development, if you are able to make it affordable and viable, so it can be, it should be. Okay, so that is about this. Any doubts here? ठीक है, तो अभी आते हैं हमारा favorite question. How are fjords formed? So this question has two parts. how they are formed, and why they are one of the most picturesque areas of the world. The second part is little bit थोड़ा सा subjective हो जाता है, because what is picturesque to you may not be picturesque to others. ठीक है, so in a general sense we have to discuss here. We cannot say they are not picturesque. यूपीएससी बोल दिया तो बोल दिया, ठीक है, picturesque है, क्यों है बताना पड़ेगा. तो इसके लिए मतलब मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट है, ये तो थोड़ा सा बाउंसर टाइप क्वेश्चन है. यू हैव टू प्ले सेफ. इफ एट ऑल यू हैव नॉट हर्ड व्हाट इज ए फ्योर्ड, फ्योर्ड के बारे में पता भी नहीं है तो इमेजिन करके नहीं लिख सकते. इन दैट केस इट इज बेटर टू स्किप दिस क्वेश्चन. ओके, सो देयर आर 2 बाउंसर्स इन द एंटायर टोटल 8 क्वेश्चंस में 2 बाउंसर है. ये है फ्योर्ड, एक है पुरवैया. थोड़ा सा सेफ खेलना है. ठीक है, इसमें सेफ कैसे खेलना है, तो यू शुड हैव एटलीस्ट द प्री रिक्विजिट इज यू शुड नो व्हाट इज फ्योर्ड. तो व्हाट इज फ्योर्ड? ग्लेशियल एरोजनल लैंडफॉर्म. ग्लेशियर की वजह से उसका जो एरोजनल प्रोसेस है ना, तो उसकी वजह से क्रिएट होता है. ओके, सो दिस व्हाट इज फ्योर्ड व्हिच यू कैन सी. इफ यू नो एटलीस्ट दिस मच यू कैन ट्राई टू मेक एन आंसर आउट ऑफ दिस. ओके, सो यू मस्ट हैव learned about this in class as a very brief. Okay, what is fjord? They are glacial features. They are created near to the coastal areas. Whenever the glaciers come near to the coastal areas, whenever they come near to the sea waters, so that creates a very deep valleys. So these valleys are called as fjords. ठीक है, इतना idea है तो लिख सकते हैं. So let's come to the why part. Okay, so previous year there is no question. So this is one of the only question asked this in this topic of landforms. जो जियोमॉर्फोलॉजी लास्ट टॉपिक है लैंडफॉर्म्स. ओके, इन दैट लैंडफॉर्म्स यूजुअली देयर हैव बीन नो क्वेश्चन, नो सिंगल क्वेश्चन हैज बीन आस्क्ड इन मेंस. ओके, सो प्रीलिम्स में भी बहुत इनडायरेक्ट क्वेश्चंस आए हैं उसमें. तो दिस इज फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम द क्वेश्चन ऑन दिस लैंडफॉर्म, पर्टिकुलरली अबाउट देयर फॉर्मेशन एंड अबाउट देयर नेचर विच हैज बीन आस्क्ड. सो लिटिल बिट डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चन, ये थोड़ा सा डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चन है. ओके, सो बट हाउएवर हाउ टू टैकल दीज काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चंस, आई टोल्ड यू प्री रिक्विजिट आपको पता होना चाहिए. Why this has been asked? These fjords, they are recently in news in many of the occasions because of climate change and global warming. Okay, I've just got 1 or 2 articles for you guys. Okay, उसका date देखो आप. This is March 2023. This is July 2023. Of course, they are not in the India. India में तो न्यूज़ में नहीं होगा क्योंकि इंडिया में fjords ही नहीं है ना? So these are a very specific type of landforms which are found near to the higher latitudes, the glacial and marine landforms. Okay, so दोनों का combination है, and they are known for a specific type of topography, specific type of life and biodiversity, and their nature are changing in the recent times due to global warming and climate change. Many of these regions are formed due to glacial erosion की वजह से हुआ है, and that is directly linked with the climate change. Because of global warming, these glaciers are melting faster. And the sea level is rising in this region. They're all in the higher latitudes. Okay, 60 degree north latitude या 60 degree south latitude. 50-60 degree के ऊपर ही मिलेगा आपको. And these regions are experiencing one of the most crisis situation due to the climate change. Temperature is rising, ice is melting faster. Okay, sea level is rising. The currents, oceanic currents are getting changed. The nature of the wildlife which is present, the biodiversity which is present over there, all of these are getting changed. So their overall nature of this ecosystem itself is under threat. So that is why this question has been asked. So that is why I have linked this to geophysical phenomena. Okay, even though this is traditional part of geography, why this question has been asked? Because this is related to current affairs. Of course, current affairs which is not in India in news, that makes this question difficult. Okay? So now how to address this? So introduce your answer with what are fjords? So what are fjords? Very briefly you can write. Fjords are the glacial valleys which are created due to the erosion activities of glaciers. But where? Near to the coastal regions. So where can we have glaciers near to the coastal region? ऐसे कहीं भी देखा है? इंडिया में होता है? ट्रॉपिकल रीजन में होता है? बिल्कुल नहीं होगा. You cannot have glaciers near to the coastal regions. These glaciers which are present in the Himalayas, before they reach the plains itself, वो पूरा melt होके river बन जाता है. They don't come near to the coastal regions. But these kind of situation is possible in the higher latitudes. You go towards 50, 60 degree north or south latitudes, there the temperature is already low. Even near to the sea level, the temperature is near to the freezing conditions. So there the glaciers will not completely melt. The glaciers which are formed near to the mountain region, they don't melt completely. They directly enter the oceans. Right? And other than that, due to the ice age, the last ice age, many of these glaciers, they expanded and they were more near to these sea level areas. Many of these glaciers have melted, but some of these glaciers which are near to the coastal region, near to Norway coast, they're still there. Okay? So you can introduce this, what exactly are fjords. So now how they are formed. इतना बेसिक आइडिया है तो थोड़ा सा बहुत आप लिख सकते हो कैसे बनता है एरोजन की वजह से बनता है सो लेट्स से दिस इज द ग्लेशियर व्हिच इज देयर नियर टू द कोस्टल रीजन okay this is a huge glacier which is there near to the coastal region okay this is the sea level as these glaciers melt and retreat it causes erosion as the glaciers melt they retreat okay so glaciers पीछे पीछे जाता है ना so because of which there is erosion that causes the entire valley to become wide and deep and steep sided. And these valleys created by the glacial erosion, particularly due to the retreat of these glaciers, we call it as fjords. So this is normally fjords are formed. So last ice age, during which the sea level has decreased. Sea level क्यों decrease होगा? Ice age में? सारा water तो ice बन गया ना? कहाँ से आएगा ice? Because of the glaciation, the water level would decrease. The sea water would be somewhere here. ये glaciers तो यहाँ पर था. So over a period of time, the sea level rise. As the temperature, global temperature rise, the sea level rise. Now they are near to the coastal region. So because of this, these glaciers will start to melt. So before the beginning of ice age, जो valleys था, ये all these valleys will get occupied by these glaciers. And these valleys become wider. Because have you seen the valleys of glaciers? They are very wide. What do we call these valleys as? U-shaped valleys. The valleys created by the glaciers, they are U-shaped valleys. Because that is how the glaciers move. They are one of the strongest force on the surface of Earth, the glaciers. They're capable of eroding and breaking any type of hard rocks. And these kind of U-shaped valleys are created near to the coastal regions. Because of the retreat of glaciers, because of the glaciers directly entering the oceans, as well as because of the change in the sea level. These are the various factors which has resulted in the formation of glacier. Fjords. Okay, first part. Second part. So why do they constitute some of the most picturesque area of the world? Picturesque area मतलब देखने के लिए बहुत सुंदर दिखता है, ऐसा क्यों है? इसका आंसर क्या होना चाहिए? You have to describe their nature. You have to describe their nature. The first, I told you, the glaciation and the retreat of glaciers in this region result in the formation of U-shaped valleys. It gets filled with water. Valleys to ban gaya near to the coastal region, it gets filled with water. Right? So that is why these valleys are very steep-sided. Can you see steep-sided? Steep-sided topography makes it more beautiful. Okay, it's because they have steep-sided valley due to this U-shaped valleys. Okay, the steep-sided valleys because of U-shaped valleys. Second, this is the only region where you will find both the type of characteristics, both the type of landform. One glacier, another one is moraine. दोनों एक जगह में मिलता ही नहीं है. In no other part of the world you will find both glaciers as well as the waves, the coast. This is the only region where you find both. A very beautiful topography. Right? It is because of the combination of both the moraine as well as glacial topography. And then the water which is there in this region, very, very clear from the glaciers, clear water. And in some of the regions, ice is still there. And one of the very clear ice, in fact, you will see this blue ice also here. And the type of diversity of life which you find here. So they are also not found anywhere else. The birds, reptile, fish. In fact, few of them also have coral reefs. Okay, not the tropical corals, they are deep water corals. They are available here. So it has the topography, it has the water, it has the conditions of life which is not available in any other part of the world. That makes them one of the most picturesque. and you will also find them filled with fog sometimes. Why? Because of merging of warm and cold ocean water, advection, inversion. सुना है? कहीं पे सुना है? So these kind of fjords are found commonly near to the Norway coast. Norway, UK का ऊपर वाला part है ना, Norway coast, that is where you find this fjord coast, and that is the region we have the North Atlantic drift. The mixing of warm and cold water creates fog over there, and that causes the foggy condition, adds to the beauty. Because of all these characteristics, it makes one of the most picturesque. So of course you may not be able to write all of these, ठीक है, तो इसके बारे में ज़्यादा नहीं सुना, जो थोड़ा सा सोचो इसका कैसे दिखता है, थोड़ा सा डिस्क्राइब करने की कोशिश करो, तो एवरेज मार्क्स मिल गया तो भी काफ़ी है हमारे लिए, बस छोड़ना नहीं. At the same time, if you don't know what is fjord, please don't guess. क्योंकि उससे ना तो और खराब इंप्रेशन आ जाएगा. तो नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन भी मतलब ये पढ़ के लगेगा एवेल्यूएटर को ये क्या लिखा है, तो फिर नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन में वही इंप्रेशन में पड़ेगा. तो प्लीज डोंट डू दैट. सो इफ यू डोंट हैव एनी जीरो आइडिया एट ऑल, प्लीज स्किप दैट. If you have some idea, please try to make an answer out of it. Okay, at least get some average marks. Is it clear? Any doubts here? Fjords. So next question, why is the southwest monsoon called Purvaiya, easterly, in Bhojpur region? How has this directional seasonal wind system influenced the cultural ethos of this region? There are two parts to this question. Okay, let's come to the first part. So is there any news? Of course, there is no news about this. So it's not related to Purvaiya or Bhojpuri region news में है, तो ऐसे कोई question नहीं आ गया. That is not the inspiration. So however, there have been few previous year question on monsoon. Monsoon के ऊपर तो previous year there have been 2 times the question have been asked. Okay, 2017, what characteristics has been assigned to the monsoon climate that succeeds in feeding more than 50% of the world population residing in monsoon area? They're talking about the characteristics of monsoon. Monsoon climate का characteristic है. Second, how far do you agree that the urban behavior of Indian monsoon has been changing due to humanizing landscape? Changing behavior of Indian monsoon. Okay, so here you have to describe the overall monsoon climate. Here it is about the Indian monsoon. Okay, this is about the specific part of Indian monsoon. Okay, this is the previous questions, and as I told you, there is no specific news about this. Okay, so now let's see. So this, I told you, this is another bouncer which you have to tackle very carefully. मान लो आप पूर्वई के बारे में सुना ही नहीं है, still you can answer if you think calmly. ठीक है? So even if you have not heard about Purvaiya, if you think calmly, you can answer. I know it is easier to tell now. यहाँ पर खड़े होके बताना easy है, आप लोग यहाँ पर बैठ के सोचना भी easy है. It is difficult to sit in the examination and think. That is why you need answer writing practice to tackle these kind of difficult questions, right? So now, so let's read this question again. Why is this southwest monsoon called Purvaiya in Bhojpur region? So first of all, Bhojpur region तो थोड़ा सा तो idea होगा. Even if you're not from these northern plains, even if you're from south or east, northeast, भोजपुर तो पता होना चाहिए. कहाँ पर है भोजपुर? यूपी बिहार का जो border area ना, यूपी बिहार and some parts of Jharkhand, so that region is what is called as Bhojpur. In fact, some of the regions of the Nepal border area भी उसमें include हो जाते हैं. The culture, it's a overall region. In that particular part, the southwest monsoon is called as Purvaiya, and very clearly एक hint दे दिया bracket में easterly. Purvaiya means easterly. अभी Purvaiya छोड़ो, easterly पकड़ो. The question is, why southwest monsoon is called as easterly in some region? Even if you don't know where exactly is Bhojpuri, थोड़ा बहुत तो मतलब कहीं पे तो है, कुछ जगह में उसको easterly बोलते हैं. क्यों बोलते हैं? थोड़ा सा सोचो. Yes. Most part of the Indian monsoon coming from southwest comes from southwest direction only, but some part turns towards from the east towards the west. The wind is always named after the direction from which it comes. जिस direction से आते हैं उसी के ऊपर नाम रखा है. We'll call the monsoon a southwest monsoon because it comes from southwest region. Okay, southwest से आते हैं, southwest region बोलते हैं, southwest monsoon बोलते हैं. So winter monsoon is called as northeast monsoon. It comes from northeast direction. Okay, why westerlies are called as westerlies? It comes from westerly, west. है ना? It is always named after the direction from which it comes. So monsoon is coming from the southwest region. Okay, it is coming from the southwest region. However, in some part of India, it is called as easterly. Why? Because you can clearly see that this monsoon takes a direction as easterly. थोड़ा सा डिविएट होके ईस्ट की डायरेक्शन से आ जाते हैं, इसीलिए उसको ईस्टर्ली बोलते हैं। ये एक्सप्लेन करना है। यू हैव ए वेरी गुड स्कोप ऑफ ड्राइंग ए मैप एंड शो दिस। अगर इतना कर दो आपको फुल मार्क्स भी मिल जाएगा। फुल मतलब 50%। ठीक है। इमेजिन सम ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स वुड नॉट हैव इमेजिन, मतलब उनको पता भी नहीं है, घबरा गया तो क्वेश्चन स्किप कर दिया। आप थोड़ा सा कामली सोच के इसका आंसर निकाल दिया। ओके, सो यू विल गेट, so let's say 5 out of 10. You are way ahead of many of the candidates. So this is what you have to do. Think calmly in the examination. Don't get stressed. पूरा बिल्कुल जीरो आइडिया, उसको छोड़ो, आगे बढ़ो। ये तो है हमारे पास, बट उसके पहले थोड़ा सा कामली सोचो, कुछ कर सकते हैं इसके ऊपर, है ना? आंसर मिल जाएगा। The question, the first part is clearly about why it is called as easterly. You have to explain that. Easterly क्यों बुलाते हैं? Second, how has this directional seasonal wind system influenced the cultural ethos of the region? मतलब उस region का cultural ethos को कैसे influence करता है? तो ये भी आप लोग पूछ सकते हैं, भोजपुरी region ही पता नहीं है तो मैं कैसे पता करूँ वहाँ पर कैसे cultural significance है? वही रीजन है और कोई रीजन नहीं, इट्स द नेमिंग ओनली। सेकेंड पार्ट कैसे गेस करें? सी, whatever the reason is, it is whatever the region in whichever the part of India, whether it is south, north, east, west, everywhere monsoon has almost same impact in terms of culture. थोड़ा सा जनरल पॉइंट यहाँ पर लिख सकते हो आप। Everywhere the farmers wait for monsoon for sowing. Everywhere the food habits change during the monsoon. Everywhere the clothing habit change during the monsoon. There are some local songs, local dance, okay, local theatre related to monsoon. यहाँ पर भी वही होगा, वही तो होना चाहिए ना। तो लिखो थोड़ा सा जनरल पॉइंट लिखो, बहुत ज़्यादा स्पेसिफिकली इमेजिन करके मत लिखो अगर नहीं पता है तो। ठीक है, सो दैट इज द सेकेंड पार्ट। ट्राई टू जनरलाइज एंड राइट, सो यू हैव टू डील विद इट, यू हैव टू प्ले सेफ हियर। फर्स्ट 2 क्वेश्चन तो पूरा फुल टॉस मिला था, है ना? फर्स्ट 2 क्वेश्चन तो पूरा प्रिडिक्टेबल था, डायरेक्ट आंसर, यू कैन स्कोर वेरी वेल। तो यहां पर एवरेज आंसर लेके आओ तो बन गया, राइट? सो लेट्स कम टू द आंसर। सो व्हाई इट इज कॉल्ड एज पूर्वैया? सो इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ द डायरेक्शन। So introduce your answer with, you can introduce even what is Bhojpur region, Bhojpur region कहाँ पर है। अगर भोजपुर region के बारे में ज़्यादा कुछ पता नहीं हो, just guessing वहाँ पर होना चाहिए, तो you can introduce about the monsoon itself, how monsoon is a major factor in Indian climate। तो वैसे ही general introduction दे दो। The second part, why it is called as Purvaiya, why it is called as easterly. So here you can draw a map, India map, and show the overall distribution. So what is the reason here? So we know that the monsoon winds arrive from the southwest direction. Okay, so this is the direction of arrival of these monsoon winds. As these monsoon winds hits the land region of India, it hits this southernmost part of India, it gets bifurcated into 2 branches. One branch is called as Arabian Bay of Bengal branch, another one is called as Arabian Sea branch. You follow this Bay of Bengal branch, initially it flows parallel to the Coromandel coast. Here it will not cause any rainfall. ये सब explain करने का जरूरी नहीं है, बता रहा हूँ आपके लिए. Okay, you just follow this. Here it comes here and it flows along this entire coast. Here it starts to cause precipitation. This branch, as it enters Bangladesh, it encounters these Great Himalayas. So this entire Great Himalayas, it's like a huge wall which will divide these winds. It gets divided into 2 parts. One part moves towards the east across the Meghalayan plateau. It encounters sudden increase in the altitude. Suddenly it gets uplifted. It causes very heavy precipitation, one of the heaviest in the entire world, where we have Cherrapunji Mausinram. Whereas the eastern part gets bifurcated and moves along the Ganga plains. And this branch coming from the east, here it is locally called as easterly or Purvaiya. Not only here, in this entire region it is called as Purvaiya only, because it is coming from east. And coming from the ocean, they are very rich in terms of humidity, moisture content. It causes very heavy precipitation. It brings a very good amount of precipitation. In fact, the precipitation decreases as you move towards the interior location. In West Bengal, it is 200 centimeter, Bihar 150 centimeter, UP 100 centimeter. By the time you come to Delhi, only 50 centimeter. हमने क्लास में भी एक्सप्लेन किया था, ठीक है? तो यही थोड़ा सा सोच लिया तो आंसर मिल जाएगा आपको. इसी को ही आपको एक्सप्लेन करना है. You have to draw a map and show the Bay of Bengal branch. Divide करो Arabian Sea branch, Bay of Bengal branch. Bay of Bengal branch moves along here. As it moves along the plains of Bangladesh, it gets bifurcated into two parts. One part moves towards the east, another towards the west, and the eastern part is what is called as Purvaiya. The third part, how it has influenced the cultural ethos of the region. बताइए कैसे? Starting from the sowing season. It kickstarts the economic activity in rural India. In this area, particularly, they are waiting for rice sowing. In this plains, okay, so in this plain, UP, Bihar ka plain area mein, rice is the most important crop which they grow during the monsoon time. They wait for the monsoon. It kickstarts the sowing season, particularly rice sowing, as well as the sugarcane cultivation, which requires a good amount of precipitation. It kickstarts the agriculture activity. So everyone in the rural area, they become more busy in this agriculture activity, right? And then there are various different festivals, puja, okay, during this time. Okay, so to start this entire agriculture process. And then there are specific type of food which is prepared during this time, right? And the specific type of clothes worn. Usually humidity zyada rehte hai, temperature zyada rehte hai. They try to wear light clothes, cotton clothes. राइट एंड देयर आर मेनी फोक सॉन्ग्स, डांसेस. फोक सॉन्ग तो सुना ही होगा, बताइए भोजपुरी वाले. ठीक है, ऐसे बहुत सारे फोक सॉन्ग्स है, याद है तो ठीक है, नहीं तो फोक सॉन्ग्स होगा ऐसे तो लिखो. देयर आर ट्रेडिशनल डांसेस. सो ड्यूरिंग दिस, सो नॉट ओनली इन दिस टाइम, इवन इन द एंशिएंट टाइम्स ऑल्सो, मोस्ट ऑफ दिस रीजन, महाजनपदा रीजन हो गया, द एंटायर द वैदिक कल्चर, मेनी ऑफ दिस वैदिक कल्चर, वैदिक हिम्स, दे वर ओरिजिनेट, दे वर praising the gods of the rain gods को praise करते हुए वो वहाँ का hymns. Okay, so there are many different श्लोकास. महाभारत में आप तो देखा ही होगा, है ना? नहीं देखा तो सुना ही होगा. ठीक है, तो ये सब तो लिख सकते हो. You can definitely write this. थोड़ा सा आराम से सोच के लिखना पड़ेगा बस. In the conclusion you can write, so it is not only here, it has defined the entire cultural ethos of all over India. हर जगह में यही है. So the monsoon has become like a proper part of lifestyle of India, right? ठीक है. That is question number 7. So question number 14. Comment on the resource potential of the long coastline of India and highlight the status of natural hazard preparedness in these areas. 15 marker question. Is there any news item related to this? There is no specific news item as such. Coastline का ही, but coastline related तो बहुत सारा initiative है, बहुत सारा programs है, तो वो सब तो लिख ही सकते हो, including the deep ocean mission. Okay, deep ocean mission का related news भी था, तो बहुत सारा है, but directly तो नहीं है, तो many things are there. हाँ, साइक्लोन, हाँ, तो हमारा बिपर जो आया था, ठीक है, उसके कंटेस्ट में सेकंड पार्ट इंस्पायर्ड हो सकता है. बट यूजुअली डिजास्टर रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन जो होता है ना पेपर 1 में, यूजुअली दे आर ऑफ द नेचर दैट दे इट आस्क्स अस टू एक्सप्लेन द रीजन बिहाइंड द डिजास्टर्स. ओके, सो प्रिपेयर्डनेस इज ए टॉपिक ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट, सो दैट इज पार्ट ऑफ योर पेपर 3. ओके, सो वंस इन ए वाइल दे ब्रिंग दैट क्वेश्चन, दैट टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चन इन पेपर 1 ऑल्सो. ओके, लैंडस्लाइड के लिए क्या मेजर्स लेना है वो भी क्वेश्चन आया था. ओके, ऐसे कभी कभी आता है, बट अदरवाइज ठीक है. सो बोथ आर इंटर रिलेटेड, बोथ पेपर 3 एंड पेपर 1, जियोग्राफी एज वेल एज डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट. So in that sense, this is in news, we can say so. So previous questions आपको देखो बहुत सारा ऐसे related previous question है, and most importantly last year ही question आया था. Okay, so you take this last year's question only. Exact word to word region change कर दिया. Discuss the natural resource potential of Deccan traps. Comment on the resource potential of long coastline of India. रिसोर्स पोटेंशियल के बारे में ही क्वेश्चन था. इनफैक्ट लास्ट ईयर का इस क्वेश्चन हम ही देख के सरप्राइज हो गया था, क्योंकि इसमें ज़्यादा कुछ रिसोर्स पोटेंशियल है ही नहीं है, एक्सेप्ट फॉर द ब्लैक सॉइल, ओके, एक्सेप्ट फॉर द विंड एनर्जी एंड द फ्रेश वाटर रिसोर्स एंड फ्यू अदर थिंग्स. देयर इज नो मेजर मिनरल रिसोर्स अवेलेबल इन द डेक्कन ट्रैप्स रीजन. डेक्कन प्लेटू में है, डेक्कन ट्रैप्स में नहीं है. both are different. Okay, I have explained this last year, तो जिसको चाहिए वो last year वाला वीडियो देख लेना. तो coming to this, the resource potential of coastal area. इसका आंसर आप अगर कोई प्रीवियस ईयर सॉल्व कर लिया तो इसमें बहुत सारा मिल जाएगा. Critically evaluate the various resources of the oceans which can be harnessed to meet the resource crisis in the world. देखो 2014 का क्वेश्चन है. The oceanic resources of the world, right? 2020 का देखो. India has immense potential of solar energy in terms of potential of particular group of energy. 2022 immense potential of wind energy. ये तो और स्पेसिफिक है, यहाँ पर आपके लिए लिखने के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा स्कोप है. You can write all the different resources which is available here, right? And there is a huge potential. ये तो ये वाला क्वेश्चन तो डायरेक्ट है. Resources of the ocean, most of them are the resources of the oceans only. The second part highlight the status of natural hazard preparedness. So we'll talk about that. So introduce your answer. You can talk about the overall coastline of India. So we have a huge coastline. So it goes for nearly 7,500 kilometers. There's a huge coastline. And the coastline includes the western coast, eastern coast. Not only that, we also have islands. A large group of islands, Andaman Nicobar, Lakshadweep group of islands. So there also we have a vast coast. Right? So we have a huge coast and there is a huge potential in terms of the natural resources. That is first part. Second part, what is the overall potential? क्या क्या मिलता है? Here you can write in different headings. So जितना चाहिए आप उतना लिख सकते हो. You can start with the mineral energy. Mineral, what are the different types of mineral energy? Mineral resources. Okay, so चलो mineral energy अलग कर लेते हैं. Mineral resources which we can extract from the oceans or the coastlines. Okay, mineral हो गया, energy हो गया, food resource भी लिखो, water in terms of fresh water or in terms of the land area, plain land area, fertile land area. Or in terms of vegetation, natural vegetation also. What are the different types of mineral resources you find along the coastal areas? Starting from the sand. Construction इनके लिए तो चाहिए, most important. It's a minor mineral, sand. Other than this, thorium, one of the most abundant mineral in the entire world. India has more than 45% of the world thorium reserve, all of them found along the coastal regions of India. Example भी लिखना है, कहाँ कहाँ पर मिलता है. Kerala coast, Andhra coast, Odisha coast, Tamil Nadu coast, as well as parts of West Bengal. सबसे ज़्यादा कहाँ पर है? आंध्रा. ओके, केरला का सबसे फेमस है, बट सबसे ज़्यादा डिपॉजिट है आंध्रा कोस्ट. ठीक है? The entire coast have huge thorium deposits. Is it only thorium deposit? What is the sand which is found over there? What type of sand? Monazite. It contains thorium. Monazite contains thorium. But monazite also contains various other type of rare earth elements. वो भी include कर सकते हो. It includes thorium, rare earth elements. Rare earth elements पता है ना? They are used in high-end technologies. So right now China is the major supplier of rare earth elements. Okay, most of the countries of the world, they are dependent upon China. So India and Japan are collaborating to produce these rare earth elements using these resources. Other than this, any other minerals? Phosphorites. And if you go slightly deeper into the oceans, you will find polymetallic nodules. So these nodules are found within the exclusive economic zone of India, which can be used by India, right? Exclusive economic zone में मिलता है. So in Arabian Sea as well as Andaman Sea. So in some parts you will find them. Of course, they are more widely, abundantly available in the Central Indian Ocean, जिसके वजह से हमने Deep Ocean Mission शुरू किया है, right? So other than this, और क्या minerals मिलेगा? So energy में ऐड करो उसको. Oil and gas. There is huge quantity of oil and gas. Examples? कहाँ पर? बॉम्बे है, गुजरात कोस्ट, महाराष्ट्र कोस्ट. Other than this, tidal energy, wind energy. Wind energy is most potential in coastline. Okay, particularly offshore. Offshore wind energy is very high potential. Onshore से ज़्यादा offshore का भी potential ज़्यादा है. और wave energy, ocean thermal energy conversion, OTEC. ठीक है? These are all the source of energy. What about food? Fish resource. There is a huge availability of fish along the coastal region. In fact, India's potential in terms of marine fishing has been less exploited. We have more production from the fresh water. We have huge potential in terms of marine water fishing. Other than that, there are various different types of seafoods. Okay, seaweeds, prawns, crabs, shrimp, oysters, and बहुत सारा है. So they are all unexploited. That is related to food, water, to produce fresh water using desalination techniques. We have a huge potential. Potential तो है. We have to develop that, right? Then land area near to the coastal area, the plain areas, flat areas are found. Particularly if you go towards the eastern coast, there is more fertile land, fertile agriculture. Example: Andhra coast, Mahanadi Delta, KG Delta, one of the most fertile. Okay, Sundarbans Delta. Forest, western coast. The western coast is known for the thick forest, rain forests. Right? There is a good precipitation जिसकी वजह से forest vegetation, that is also resource potential है. Right? इसमें भी आपको लिखने के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा रहेगा. You better restrict yourself to each point rather than elaborating too much. Diversify करना है. Okay, जितना diversify करोगे उतना अच्छा रहेगा. Highlight the status of natural hazard preparedness in this area. ये जो second statement है थोड़ा सा tricky है. This is bit tricky. It is not saying that what are the preparation which we have taken. Of course you have to mention that. But you have to tell what is the present status. उसका मतलब क्या है? Are we 100% ready to face the hazards along the coastal area? What are the lacunas? वो भी mention करना है. If at all this question, same question has been asked, what are the measures taken to be prepared for the disasters along the coastal area? You will just mention what are the initiatives taken. So it is saying highlight the status. What is the status? पूरा preparation हो गया तो आधा आधा है. क्या क्या lacuna है वो भी बताओ. दोनों part यहाँ पर explain करने हैं. In the first part, you will talk about the measures which are taken. The measures taken by the state government, central government, various different agencies in order to be prepared for the hazards along the coastal region. First of all, what are the hazards along the coastal region? Cyclones, tsunami, or storm surge, coastal erosion, right? So what are the preparations which have been taken? Floods. Okay, floods bhi hoga, theek hai. If you see most of the eastern coastal states, they are well prepared. Best example is Odisha. Odisha encountered a super cyclone in 1999. 1999 super cyclone, that was one of the most disaster event which it had faced. But now they are totally ready to face any kind of cyclone. 3 साल पहले भी एक super cyclone आया था. You did not hear about large scale damage because they are prepared. They have put in total measures for preparation of cyclone. Everything is ready. Okay, from the block level, from the community level, okay, at the district level, what kind of measures to be taken? Because they get a regular update from IMD. Okay, satellite imagery से हमें clearly पता चलता है in which direction the cyclone is moving. Okay, so in which area it is going to make a landfall. It will immediately issue warning. The warning system is well established. Preparedness for cyclone, Odisha का example आप देख सकते हो. Andhra Pradesh, along the coastal region, they are experiencing various disaster. Okay, for that they have various initiatives related to the farmer insurance, agriculture insurance related coastal areas में वो बहुत successfully implement हुआ है. Tamil Nadu, so recently the few of the steps have been taken to integrate, to reduce the overall risk along the coastal region due to the disasters. Okay, so however, along the western coast, the preparedness is minimal. And in the recent times, this is very much required. Because we are seeing more number of cyclones along the Arabian Sea. Okay, so thanks to the variation of global temperature and pressure conditions, the number of cyclones in Arabian Sea is increasing and the preparedness of the western coast is very less. अगर वेस्टर्न कोस्ट में साइक्लोन आ भी गया तो नॉर्मल साइक्लोन है तो क्या होगा, तो इट मूव्स इन दिस डायरेक्शन, दैट इज द नॉर्मल डायरेक्शन ऑफ साइक्लोन, बट सम ऑफ द साइक्लोन्स आर टोटली टर्निंग टुवर्ड्स इंडिया. सो ऐसे हमने क्या गलती किया था, स्पेशल टारगेट कर रहे हैं. सो व्हाट डू वी कॉल दिस प्रोसेस, recurvature of cyclones. We are observing more recurvature of cyclones, for example Biparjoy. The preparedness of these coastal communities, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka and Kerala, for the cyclones, they are very, very less. We need more initiatives. Okay? So you have to talk both. At the national level, we have various initiatives. We have cyclone warning system, tsunami warning system. Okay, so after 2004 tsunami, we have a well-developed tsunami warning system, which we use to alert the coastal community within 10 minutes of earthquake anywhere in the northern Indian Ocean. कहीं पे भी 10 मिनट में, मतलब within 10 minutes we can inform. कहीं पे भी earthquake हो गया, within 10 minutes we will issue warning. Not only for the Indian coastal states, for all the other surrounding countries also. One of the best tsunami warning system. And IMD uses INSAT series of satellites to track the cyclones. We can exactly predict where it is going to make a landfall. Totally prepared. Right? So like this, there are various different initiatives are there. Cyclone risk mitigation project. Okay, so integrated coastal zone management project, coastal vulnerability index. So 3-4 example आपको लिखना ही पड़ेगा. But that part where the vulnerability is more, where the preparedness is less, वो भी highlight करना है आपको. So that will be your last part. With that itself, we can conclude. Because we are saying what else to be done, है ना? There is a way forward in that. Of course, we can draw a map here for both the parts. एक ही मैप से दिखा सकते हो रिसोर्स पोटेंशियल कौन से एरिया में कौन सा रिसोर्स मिलता है, ये सब दिखा सकते हो. Identify and discuss the factors responsible for diversity of natural vegetation in India. First part. Second part, assess the significance of wildlife sanctuaries in the rainforest regions of India. So again, no direct topic as such in news, but there are many indirect topics which are related to the natural vegetation, okay, degradation of forest, forest fire, ऐसे बहुत सारा मिल जाएगा. Forest related तो मिल जाएगा आपको topic. And this is not something which is totally unrelated. This is proper static part of your economic geography, where you have to study the distribution of natural vegetation at the world level as well as at the India level. What are the different types of vegetation at the world level? What are the different types of vegetation at the India level? What are the reasons behind this variation? Distribution तो आपने पढ़ा होगा, तो reasons आपको correlate करना पड़ेगा. ठीक है? So there has been one previous year's question in 2020 on the natural vegetation. You can see this. Examine the status of natural resources of India and its resultant impact on the climate change. First part. Okay, the status of overall natural vegetation. Okay, forest vegetation. Now, identify and discuss the factors responsible for this diversity. So introduce your answer with the diversity of vegetation itself. Okay, so in the introduction, you can talk how the natural vegetation of India is there. What are the different types in brief? What are the different types of natural vegetation found in India? बताइए. Different types of natural vegetation. Tropical rainforest, tropical deciduous, tropical thorn, montane forest, and then mangrove forest. है ना? There are 5 types of major vegetation. If you go by Champion and Seth model, you will find 17 different types. इसी को subdivide करके तो वो बना दिया. ठीक है? NCERT में 5 दिया है, 5 काफी है. Okay, 5 different types of natural vegetation found in India. Very briefly introduce this. Here you can draw a India map and show the different types of vegetation. That we will use it in the second main part of the answer. What are the factors which are responsible for this kind of variation? इतना सारा variety आपको मिलता है. I told you, if you go by Champion and Seth model, you'll find 17 different variety of natural vegetation. Right? So why? What are the factors which decides the vegetation? अगर इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा आइडिया है तो ये आप खुद लिख सकते हो. What factors decide vegetation? So first, the topography, which type of land it is. Then temperature, then precipitation, and then soil condition. Majorly तो यही है. These are the conditions which will decide the type of vegetation. Topography. Coming to the topography, we have a very diverse topographical condition in India. We have plain area, plateau area, mountain area, coastal area. सारा मिलेगा. There's so much of variation in the topography. Definitely the vegetation would also vary. Give examples. Very much important. The type of vegetation which is found in Himalayas are different. The type of vegetation which is found in the coastal areas different. Mangroves. In the plain areas, again it is different. Then come to the hilly area, plateau area. Temperature. Temperature again varies from one part to another. Tropical region, temperate region, okay, alpine vegetation. In the tropical region, you will find rainforest as well as deciduous forest, depending upon the precipitation. But overall, it is broad-lived. You come to the colder conditions, temperate regions. You go to the Himalayas, high reach of Himalayas. You will find coniferous forest also, Devdar, right? Pine, chirpine. Examples देना है, trees का example देना है. Tree vegetation के ऊपर prelims में भी questions आए हैं. Okay, this is a very important area. It is linked to environment. ठीक है? Temperature is a deciding factor. Precipitation, most important deciding factor. Why there is so much of diversity? Within the hot weather conditions, you will find rainforest as well as tropical thorn also. For example, Western Ghats. Okay, so you come to the peninsular region. Along this region, along the Western Ghats, you will find rainforests. Whereas just next to it, in this region, you will find tropical thorn. मतलब कुछ भी ज़्यादा कुछ है ही नहीं है यहाँ पर. Very, very less vegetation. Why? Because of the rain shadow region. Leeward side. Same is with the northeast. Even though slightly towards the northern part, okay, थोड़ा सा latitude wise ऊपर है, फिर भी अच्छे से बारिश होगा. You will find rainforest over there also. But as you go interior, the precipitation decreases, the type of vegetation changes. From rainforest become deciduous. Okay, monsoon branch you follow करो, यहाँ पर rainforest है. अंदर आ जाओ moist deciduous, dry deciduous, and then tropical thorn. Because of precipitation. Soil condition. We have different types of soil. Alluvial soil, mountain soil, black soil, laterite soil. Depending upon the soil type, vegetation type varies. Coastal region में saline conditions आपको मिलेगा, mangrove vegetation. Alluvial plains are one of the most fertile. They can host a good vegetation depending upon the precipitation. पर northern plain में हमने पूरा खाली कर दिया, वो अलग बात है. For agriculture. Okay, but otherwise this is one of the very thick and dense area for forest. ठीक है? So all these conditions आपको explain करना पड़ेगा. These are the various factors with example. How exactly each of the factor influence the nature of vegetation. Second part is what makes this question applied actually. Otherwise तो ये पूरा static है, पूरा direct था. Assess the significance of wildlife sanctuaries in rainforest regions of India. Okay, पहली बात है कि we are talking about the wildlife sanctuaries in rainforests. So where do we have rainforests in India? Western Ghats, Northeast, Andaman Nicobar also. लोग भूल जाते हैं, Andaman Nicobar भी है. Tropical evergreen rainforest. In these regions, we have to talk about the significance of wildlife sanctuary. What do you mean by significance of wildlife sanctuary? मतलब वहाँ पर wildlife sanctuary बनाने में क्या फायदा होगा, वो बताइए. What are the benefits of having wildlife sanctuary in rainforest area? पूरा wildlife sanctuary का जो objective है वहाँ पर सारा मिल जाएगा. What are the objectives of wildlife sanctuaries? What are the objectives of this protected area approach? Yes, पहले तो protect the endangered species. There are various endangered species. Give some example. Many of these species which are found in the Western Ghats are totally endemic and they are not found in any other part of the world. Okay, so protecting endangered species. Any examples? Lion-tailed macaque, Malabar civet. बहुत सारे critically endangered species मिलेगा, right? endangered species, protecting their habitat. Most of these rainforests are facing the threat of habitat destruction due to developmental activities. By protecting them with the wildlife sanctuaries, we can protect the habitat, we can protect their biodiversity. Okay, overall biodiversity, one of the richest in terms of biodiversity in the entire world. The Western Ghats have the biodiversity rivaling that of Amazon itself. This is one of the biodiversity hotspots in the world. To protect it biodiversity, we want protected areas where the developmental activities can be limited. So then comes all these activities, poaching kam karne ke liye, to reduce the man-animal conflict, right? Anything else? Or kuch? Ecotourism and education, right? Ecotourism and education के लिए भी तो चाहिए. We want this to spread more awareness. For scientific research, development, tourism activities. Huh? To protect the tribal areas, good. Which are more synced with this natural vegetation in these rainforests. ये सारा हो जाएगा इसके अंदर. So assess the significance. Overall, you have to tell what are the important significance. Why should we have the wildlife sanctuaries in this region? This is a bit of general question. Question number 16. Why did human development fail to keep in pace with economic development in India? Okay, so there is no necessity of having current relevance here. So economic development, the model of economic development, regional imbalance. Okay, so the issues of development, ये सारा चीज़ें यहाँ पर हम कोट कर सकते हो. So that is totally inspired. ठीक है, तो थोड़ा सा तो background मिल जाएगा. The previous year's question, how is efficient and affordable urban mass transportation key to rapid economic development of India? Okay, तो एक question जो related आपको मिलता है economic development, usually economic development related. So this is like we can say overlapping between the social aspect and the economic aspect, है ना? तो थोड़ा सा सोसाइटी का भी कोरिलेशन यहाँ पर लेके आना पड़ेगा. In the introduction, you can define what is economic development, what is human development. Economic development क्या होता है, human development क्या होता है, दोनों आपको डिस्कस करना पड़ेगा. Very briefly define it. What is economic development? Increase in economic productivity, increase in the economic production. What is human development? उससे क्या होगा? What is the objective of human development? To increase the choice, increase the freedom, reduce the restrictions on human beings. That is what is human development. Okay, so why we have to keep it separate? Will the economic development not result in human development? Yes, it will not guarantee it. Because traditionally the economic development is measured in terms of GDP. Okay, so in terms of GDP, कितना value हुआ है, okay, कितना addition हुआ है in terms of the services or production. That is what is economic development. Human development, how much of education, how much of literacy, how much of health service, how much of the human empowerment is happening actually, how much of this economic development is distributed uniformly. That is what is human development. So normal economic development, we have GDP measure, GDP, GNP, ये सब चीजें हैं. Human development, we have human development report. So this comparison is very important in the context of India because India is the 5th largest economy in the world. However, in terms of HDR report, we are one of the last. So recently we have seen the recent report have shown that our overall the value of this human development index has decreased. थोड़ा सा decrease हुआ है. In that context, we can say this question is asked. तो अभी बताइए what are the reasons? So you can directly come to the reasons. You can either list all the different reasons or club it into 4 major categories. The first, economic aspect, political aspect, social and environmental. The various different reasons, various different causes, all of this can be grouped into different categories. What are the economic factors which are responsible for this difference of economic development and human development. We are one of the leading in terms of economic development, but in terms of human development, it is not so. What are the economic factors? Yes, the nature of the economy, that is unorganized sector. Okay, there is a huge population who are indulged in unorganized sector, informal economic activities. Then inequality in the growth. Okay, so major growth is benefiting only the few sections of the society. Most importantly, why? There is a huge divide between the urban and rural population. Most of India's population is concentrated in the primary sector, agriculture. But the economic development is happening in the tertiary sector. ये जो ट्रांजिशन होना चाहिए था वहां पर थोड़ा सा इश्यू हुआ है. We should have, by now, we should have moved a large part of the primary sector population into secondary as well as tertiary. The industrial growth did not meet the expectation. जितना होना चाहिए था उतना नहीं हुआ है. उसके वजह से ये जो population वहां पर ही रह गया, प्राइमरी में ही रह गया. For that we should have worked towards skill development. है ना? ठीक है, वो political में include कर सकते हैं. ठीक है, political में आ जाएगा. Economic में यही है. In terms of the economic activity, the nature of activity, the concentration of wealth, and in terms of the nature of the overall sector, primary, secondary, tertiary sector, कहाँ पर ज़्यादा growth है, कहाँ पर ज़्यादा population है, ये mismatch. Political, regional imbalance in terms of development, regional imbalance in terms of the rural-urban divide. Most of the development is happening in the urban areas. In geography, we have the concept of primate city, right? So major cities are the centers of economic development, whereas we have huge population in rural areas. जहाँ पर population है वहाँ पर ज़्यादा economic development नहीं हो रहा है, जहाँ पर कम population है वहाँ पर बहुत ज़्यादा development हो रहा है. Of course, urban areas, they have good amount of population, but compared to the overall population of India, so this is very less. The concentration of economic activities is more in the urban areas. So for that, the regional imbalance, we call it as regional imbalance. Regional development is very much required. Uniform development. Other than this, the political factors, the government policies in terms of the which sector where they are giving more importance to. Of course, up till 1990, they gave more importance to the primary and secondary sector. Now it has been shifted towards the tertiary sector. But however, still the major population is stuck in the primary sector. We need government support over there in terms of skill development, skill training, so that we can move them towards the secondary and tertiary sector. Then only we can ensure there is a human development over there. And failure of trickle-down effect. Initially, we thought this concentration in these large-scale projects would trickle down gradually towards the human development. Economic development के लिए large-scale projects बना देते हैं, steel plants, hydropower plants ये सब बना देंगे, तो उसका benefits तो trickle down हो जाएगा. वो तो trickle down नहीं हुआ because of corruption. Okay, so because of various issues in the governance. So all of this you can write in the political factors. Social factors, education, health, unemployment, and other discrimination, gender discrimination, caste discrimination, all of these social factors which has inhibited a large section, particularly rural areas में ये सबसे ज़्यादा होता है, which have inhibited the economic growth. Various different poor population, they are not able to take up new economic activity because they are restricted by these inhibitions. Best example, the fishing activity. There is a huge potential of fishing sector in India, but in India, fishing activity is caste-based economic activity. Okay, people don't see it as some kind of economic opportunity, right? So there is a mismatch over there. So environmental, pollution, climate change, that impacts the vulnerable section more. The people who have the resources, who have the access to resources, they will be able to do well. That will definitely widen the gap between them. Okay? And conclusion, what can we write in the conclusion? You can definitely talk about the demographic dividend here. This is the best time to reap the benefits of demographic dividend. If we don't bring this gap, if we don't reduce this gap, so we will lose this demographic dividend and it will become demographic burden. Right? demographic disaster भी. So that is question number 16. Question number 70. So this is both of geography as well as the question of post-independence, you can say, or you can also link it with the society. So let's discuss this from the geographic perspective. Okay, geography perspective बता दें तो. So what is the news? News तो बहुत clear है. Recently there have been few articles which talked about India's number one, मतलब India's good position in terms of exports. Okay, so we have reached a good status in terms of the export. Overall, we are making more export than imports. Import zero नहीं हुआ है. There is still dependency in which oil seeds, pulses, one of the largest dependency is there. But थोड़ा बहुत अच्छी वाला बात है कि दूसरा सेक्टर से बहुत ज़्यादा एक्सपोर्ट हो रहा है, वो न्यूट्रलाइज हो जाएगा. Still we have to reduce the dependency over there. Overall net we are exporting. Okay, so net बराबर कर दिया तो एक्सपोर्ट ज़्यादा हो रहा है. So in that context this is in news. Recently recent June 2 2023 का आर्टिकल है. Okay, so India's export के ऊपर बहुत ऐसा बड़ा सा आर्टिकल आया था. Fine. And even without that also you can still answer. There have been few questions in geography related to the agriculture development, green revolution, blue revolution. इसके बारे में तो already question आ चुका है. You can see this 2014 about the green revolution. Okay, why green revolution has not been very successful in some parts. Okay, why, what is blue revolution? What are the problems and strategies? तो अभी बताइए इसमें क्या होना चाहिए? You can introduce your answer with the overall recent news item हो गया. Okay, so or any of these overall idea of food security. Okay, तो उसके through introduce कर सकते हो. Then you come to the part why India is able to achieve this status. Okay, because the question directly says what are the reasons behind this. The reasons are of multiple different types. हमने तीन कैटेगरी में हमने डिवाइड कर सकते हैं इसको. One is the overall agriculture development. The second, the government policy. Third, international cooperation. The first factor, agriculture development, starting from the Green Revolution. Before the Green Revolution, the situation was totally different. India was mainly dependent upon, even for food grains, from the imports. Okay, so USA was the major supplier, right? And from that situation, we have become a food surplus country within a short period of time, thanks to Green Revolution. What are the inputs of Green Revolution? High yielding variety seeds, irrigation, fertilizer, chemical fertilizers, and then pesticides, mechanization. Because of all of this, we are able to drastically increase the production of food grains. Is it only food grains? We have seen the revolution in milk production, white revolution. We have seen the revolution in fishery production. ये सारा food related ही है ना? You can include all of that. Overall sector of agriculture has seen a revolution in the last 60-70 years. So that is agriculture development. Government policy, land reforms. Various different initiatives taken for land reforms, and then various different policies, including the PDS, public distribution system, without which the farmers would not have produced surplus. है ना? तो हमने तो बोल दिया अच्छा सा वैरायटी सीड्स भी दे दिया, तो फार्मर्स वुड आस्क इतना सारा हमने प्रोड्यूस कर लिया तो कौन खरीदेंगे, तो मार्केट प्राइस गिर जाएगा. गवर्नमेंट ने बोला हम खरीदेंगे. दैट इज व्हाट PDS. Okay, so for PDS MSP support, okay, through PDS they started to distribute it. Then they gave various different subsidies, fertilizer subsidy, okay, so power subsidy, so बहुत सारा subsidies दिया. It resulted in the overall growth of the sector. Government policies, and it also established various different agencies of research, including ICAR, okay, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, which has resulted in the overall development. It is thanks to this we have Green Revolution. Even now they are working towards bringing more different varieties which are climate resistant varieties, right? वो सारा government policy. International cooperation, of course you can bring WTO. Okay, WTO agreement, and India signing WTO agreement has opened India's agriculture market to the outside world. And not only that, various different international negotiations, cooperations. Okay, बहुत जगह में जो इंडिया के तरफ से जो हमने फोर्सफुली जो एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्ट्स के लिए सपोर्ट किया है ना? So that is the reason we did not sign many of these international agreements also, right? All this initiatives taken at the international level, we can quote it here. ठीक है? And you can conclude. With the overall few other initiatives which are required to be taken, you can talk about this pulse and oil seeds. वो लेके आ सकते हो यहाँ पर, है ना? Necessity to reduce the overall dependency over there. ठीक है? Last part, ये सबसे important part है analysis, जो आपके लिए फायदा होगा. So what is the overall analysis of geography section? One thing is very clear, the nature of questions have changed. Earlier it was totally direct, many of the questions were direct and basic, now it has become applied in nature. And second important change we can observe, they are more current relevant and they are more related to the social and economic development. Okay, current and related to the social and economic development. So will it make geography less scoring? No, it is still scoring. Geography has remained one of the most scoring section in paper 1. It always usually pushed the overall score of the paper 1 to a little bit higher. Okay, one who has studied geography thoroughly, they would have scored very easily in this part. है ना? Still it applies the same. Even though the nature of questions have become different, okay, it has become different. I won't say difficult, it has become a little bit different. But still you can score well if you practice well and prepare geography thoroughly. Because it is not only this geography section, ये तो मैंने 8 क्वेश्चन का ही दिखाया है. Urbanization, geographical factors in the ancient, okay, तो वो उसका भी बात हुआ था. पेपर 3 में देखो 2-3 क्वेश्चन है geography related, cropping pattern, है ना? So they are helpful in few other sections also. So please prepare the geography section thoroughly. And most importantly, practice answer writing. In this change scenario, if you practice well, it will give you an edge. Okay, आराम से सोच के इसमें क्या लिखना है वो थोड़ा सा आदत से बनेगा. ठीक है? And what about the sources? Are the traditional sources sufficient here? If you ask me, they are sufficient here. So don't worry too much just because there is one question on fjord. ऐसे बैठ के सारा डिटेल में रिसर्च करना शुरू मत करो. So जो भी पढ़ा है उसको thoroughly prepare करो. fjord के बारे में briefly NCERT में दिया है वो काफ़ी है. Okay, और even it is given in GC long also, जितना दिया है वो काफ़ी है. Okay, so बाकी सारा इतना जो भी sources है, जो भी दूसरा क्वेश्चन है, सबके लिए जो traditional source है वो काफ़ी है. I would suggest only one thing. The topic of geophysical phenomena. Okay, geophysical phenomena वाला जो topic है ना, तो initially I have shown this. There try to give more attention. Try to be more attention, give more attention. If any of these topics are currently in news में कुछ है, any of the changes related to the climate change, global warming, sea level rise, okay, glacier melting, changes of water bodies, all of this try to link it with geography. यहाँ पर क्वेश्चन आ सकता है. So here you have to go beyond the traditional NCERTs. One, current affairs. Second, some in-depth understanding. Okay, so if you have some thoroughly prepared notes in that section, so it will be helpful for you. Okay, if you don't have, if you have just prepared NCERTs, I would suggest you refer any of these textbooks of physical geography. Okay, so for example, Savindra Singh, I'm not suggesting that you have to read Savindra Singh. You can just refer only few important topics. It will give you deeper insights. And make a brief note and use that. Okay? So that is it from my end. Any doubts? Okay? So I wish you all the best to all of you who are going to write next time and those who are going to give interview this time. So this is my mail ID. You can use this and you can send me if you have any queries. Thank you very much.